The autumn wind blew through the empty streets near the Han River. Jinho kicked a small rock as he walked home from school. His backpack bounced against his shoulders with each step. The 12-year-old boy liked taking the long way home through the old industrial area. His mother always told him to stay away from the abandoned warehouses, but Jinho was curious about everything. Today felt different. The air seemed to buzz with electricity, and the pigeons were acting strange. They flew in circles instead of landing on the old factory roofs. Jinho stopped walking and looked around. Something was wrong, but he could not figure out what it was. A loud crash echoed from behind one of the empty buildings. Jinho jumped back and almost ran home. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He crept toward the sound, staying close to the brick walls. The crash had come from the old textile factory that closed down 3 years ago. Behind the building, Jinho found something impossible. A small metal pod, no bigger than a washing machine, had smashed into the concrete ground. Steam rose from its cracked surface. Strange blue liquid leaked from several holes in the metal shell. The pod looked nothing like any machine Jinho had ever seen. He approached slowly, his heart beating fast. The metal was warm to touch and covered in symbols that looked like nothing from Earth. A soft humming sound came from inside the pod. Jinho found a crack large enough to peek through. Inside the pod, something moved. It was tiny, no bigger than his hand. At first, Jinho thought it might be a strange doll or toy. But then it moved again, and he realized it was alive. The creature looked like a person, but so small he could hold it in his palm. It had arms, legs, and a face like a human, but its skin was pale blue and it wore clothes made of shiny material. The tiny being was hurt. Dark blue blood came from cuts on its arms and legs. Worst of all, metal bands were locked around its wrists and ankles. The bands glowed with red light and seemed to cause the creature pain every time it moved. Jinho had always loved small animals. He rescued injured birds and helped lost cats find their homes. This tiny person needed help just like any hurt animal. Without thinking about danger, Jinho carefully widened the crack in the pod. "Hey there," he whispered in Korean. "I want to help you." The creature looked up at him with large, frightened eyes. It made soft chirping sounds like a baby bird. Jinho gently reached inside and lifted the tiny being out of the broken pod. It weighed almost nothing in his hands. Looking around to make sure no one was watching, Jinho carefully placed the creature in his jacket pocket. The walk home felt like it took forever. He kept his hand near his pocket, making sure his tiny passenger was safe. At home, Jinho went straight to his room. His mother was cooking dinner in the kitchen and did not see him sneak upstairs. He closed his door and locked it, then gently took the creature from his pocket. Under the bright light of his desk lamp, Jinho could see how badly hurt the tiny being was. The metal bands around its wrists and ankles were burning its skin. The creature kept making soft, sad sounds and pointing at the bands. Jinho knew he had to remove them. He found his smallest screwdriver and a pair of tweezers his father used for electronics. Working very carefully, he examined the metal bands. They seemed to have small locks but no visible keys. "This might hurt a little," Jinho whispered, even though he knew the creature could not understand Korean. He used the screwdriver to carefully pry at the first band around the creature's left wrist. It was harder than it looked. The metal was strong and the lock was complex. After 20 minutes of gentle work, the band clicked open and fell away. The creature made a sound like a sigh of relief. The burned skin underneath the band was dark blue and looked very painful. Jinho dabbed it gently with a cotton swab dipped in clean water. One by one, he removed all 4 bands. Each time, the creature seemed to feel better. When the last band came off, the tiny being stood up in Jinho's palm and looked at him with what seemed like gratitude. Jinho made a soft bed from cotton balls in a small cardboard box. He placed it on his nightstand and gently set the creature inside. From his desk drawer, he found a bottle cap and filled it with clean water. He also crumbled a tiny piece of bread, thinking the creature might be hungry. The tiny being drank the water eagerly but ignored the bread. Instead, it pointed at Jinho's pencil and made chirping sounds. Jinho gave it the pencil, which was huge compared to the creature's size. Using both arms, the tiny being managed to scratch marks on a piece of paper. The marks looked like symbols, similar to the ones on the crashed pod. Jinho could not read them, but he understood that his guest was trying to communicate. For the next 3 days, Jinho took care of his secret visitor. He brought water and tried different foods until he found that the creature liked small pieces of fruit. The burns on its skin slowly healed, turning from dark blue to a lighter shade. The creature was very intelligent. It watched everything Jinho did and started copying Korean sounds. On the second day, it managed to say Jinho when he pointed to himself. On the third day, it pointed to itself and made a sound like Nari. Jinho was amazed. This tiny person was learning his language faster than he learned English at school. On the fourth morning, Nari seemed excited about something. She kept pointing out the window and making urgent chirping sounds mixed with broken Korean words. Jinho looked outside but saw nothing unusual. Then he heard it. A low humming sound, like the noise from the crashed pod but much louder. Through his bedroom window, Jinho saw something incredible. A larger ship, sleek and silver, hovered quietly above the neighborhood. It made no sound that normal human ears could detect, but somehow Jinho could feel its presence. Nari stood up in her cotton bed and spoke her first clear Korean sentence. "My people come." Jinho felt both happy and sad. He was glad that Nari would be rescued and returned to her family, but he would miss his tiny friend who had made his ordinary life feel magical. The ship landed silently in the empty lot behind Jinho's house. Nari climbed onto Jinho's finger and patted his thumb gently. She looked into his eyes and spoke slowly in careful Korean. "Thank you. I will remember." Jinho carried her outside to meet her rescuers. 3 beings who looked like adult versions of Nari emerged from the ship. They were still small compared to humans, but much larger than Nari. When they saw her sitting safely on Jinho's palm, they made musical sounds that seemed like joy and relief. One of them spoke to Jinho in perfect Korean. "You saved her from slavery. Our people will not forget this kindness." Nari hugged Jinho's thumb one last time before joining her rescuers. As their ship lifted silently into the sky, she pressed her tiny hand against the window and waved goodbye. Jinho stood in his backyard for a long time, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness would change not just his life, but the entire future of humanity among the stars. 18 years had passed since that strange autumn day when Jinho found the tiny alien girl in the crashed pod. Now 30 years old, he worked as a mechanical engineer for Korea's new space program. His job was to design parts for the rockets that would one day carry Korean astronauts to the moon. Seoul had changed a lot since Jinho was 12. The city stretched higher into the sky with gleaming towers, and flying cars moved between the buildings on set routes. But Jinho still lived in the same neighborhood where he grew up. In a small apartment not far from his childhood home. Most people had forgotten about flying cars and space elevators after the first excitement wore off. For Jinho, these things were just part of normal life now. He went to work every day, designed rocket parts, and came home to his quiet apartment. Sometimes he looked at the stars and remembered Nari, but those memories felt like a childhood dream. On Tuesday morning, everything changed. Jinho was drinking coffee and checking his computer when every screen in his apartment started flashing red warnings. The emergency broadcast system activated across all of Seoul. A serious voice spoke from every device. "Citizens, remain calm. Unknown spacecraft have entered Earth's atmosphere. This is not a drill." Jinho ran to his window and looked up at the sky. Massive ships hung in the air above Seoul like floating cities. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their hulls gleamed silver in the morning sunlight, and they made no sound at all. More ships appeared over other parts of the world. Television news showed the same impossible sight above New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities. The world held its breath. For 3 days, the ships just waited. Earth's governments tried to contact them using every method they could think of. Radio signals, light patterns, mathematical equations broadcast into space. Nothing worked. The alien ships remained silent. On the 4th day, one ship descended toward the United Nations building in New York. World leaders gathered to witness humanity's first official contact with alien life. Every television channel showed the same picture. Diplomats and scientists waiting nervously as the alien ship landed in the UN courtyard. Jinho watched from his apartment, fascinated but not really surprised. He had always known this day would come. Somewhere in his heart he had been waiting for it. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of opening immediately, the alien ship sent a message. Not to the UN Secretary General or the President of the United States or any world leader. The message was simple and direct. "We wish to speak with the human called Jinho of Seoul, Korea." Jinho nearly dropped his coffee mug. Every person in his apartment building started talking at once. His neighbors had heard his name on the television. Phone calls came from reporters, government officials, and old friends he had not spoken to in years. Everyone wanted to know why aliens from space were asking for him personally. Within 6 hours, a government car arrived at Jinho's apartment. Serious men in black suits escorted him to a waiting helicopter. They flew him to Seoul's main airport, where a military jet was ready to take him to New York. Everything happened so fast that Jinho barely had time to think. During the flight, a government official asked Jinho many questions. Had he ever worked with alien technology? Did he have any special knowledge about space? Had he ever met anyone from another planet? Jinho answered honestly. He told them about finding Nari 18 years ago, though he was not sure they believed him. A tiny alien girl, the official repeated. In a crashed pod? And you helped her? Yes, Jinho said simply. She was hurt and scared. I took care of her until her people came to get her. The official wrote notes and looked skeptical. But what other explanation was there? At the United Nations, world leaders waited for Jinho with nervous expressions. The alien ship had not moved or sent any other messages. It simply waited for him to arrive. As Jinho walked across the courtyard toward the silver ship, a door opened silently in its smooth hull. Light poured out and a figure appeared in the doorway. Jinho's heart began to beat faster as the figure stepped into the sunlight. It was Nari, but she had changed. She was no longer tiny enough to sit in his palm. Now she stood as tall as his shoulder, with the same pale blue skin and large eyes he remembered. She wore elegant robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and her movements had the grace of someone important and powerful. Jinho walked toward her slowly, hardly believing his eyes. Behind him he could hear the whispers and gasps of amazed diplomats. Camera flashes went off like tiny lightning strikes. Nari smiled the same gentle smile he remembered from 18 years ago. When they were close enough to speak, she said in perfect Korean, "Hello, Jinho, you have grown tall." "Nari?" Jinho asked, though he already knew the answer. "Is it really you?" "Yes," she said. "I told you I would remember." The world watched as the woman who had once been a tiny alien girl stepped forward and embraced the man who had saved her life. Jinho hugged her carefully, still amazed that she was real and standing before him. "I have something important to ask you," Nari said. "Something that could change everything for your people and mine." She gestured toward her ship. "Will you come aboard? There is much to discuss." Jinho looked back at the crowd of world leaders and reporters watching them. Then he looked at Nari, who had traveled across the galaxy to find him again. His choice was easy, yes, he said. "I will listen to what you have to say." As they walked together toward the alien ship, Nari explained how much her life had changed. "I am an ambassador now," she said proudly. "The youngest in the history of my people. I spent years convincing our government to make contact with Earth. Your kindness to me became a famous story among the Velti. We had never encountered a species that helped us without wanting something in return." Inside the ship, everything glowed with soft blue light. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Other Velti crew members bowed respectfully to Nari as they passed. In a comfortable room with chairs sized for both humans and Velti, Nari served Jinho a cup of warm liquid that tasted like honey and starlight. She sat across from him and looked into his eyes with the same trust he remembered from their first meeting. "I have come to make you an offer," she said. "Not just for you, but for all humanity. My people need allies, and your people need friends among the stars. Together we could build something amazing." Jinho set down his cup and leaned forward. "What kind of offer?" Nari's smile widened. "The kind that could make Earth part of a galactic community. The kind that could give your people the stars themselves." Outside the ship, the world waited for news of humanity's first diplomatic meeting with an alien species. Inside, two friends who had found each other across impossible distances began planning a future that would change both their peoples forever. Inside the glowing ship, Nari spread her hands on the smooth table between them. The surface lit up with moving pictures and strange symbols that shifted and changed like living things. Jinho watched in amazement as star maps appeared in the air above the table, showing thousands of worlds connected by bright lines. "This is our galaxy," Nari explained, pointing to different colored dots among the stars. "The blue worlds belong to my people, the Velti. We are peaceful traders and scientists. We build beautiful cities and create amazing technology, but we are not fighters. She touched a cluster of red dots that seemed to pulse like angry hearts. These worlds belong to the HFY Empire. They are the ones who made me a slave when I was young. They capture other species and force them to work in terrible conditions. They have been growing stronger for many years. Jinho studied the star map carefully. The red dots seemed to be spreading slowly toward the blue ones like a disease moving through the galaxy. They want to conquer your people? Yes, Nari said sadly. And many others. The HFY believe that strong species should rule over weak ones. They see kindness as weakness and peace as an invitation to attack. The pictures in the air changed to show images of different alien species. Some looked similar to the Velti, small and gentle. Others were completely strange, with tentacles or multiple eyes or bodies made of crystal. All of them looked afraid. These are our allies, Nari continued. Good people who want to live in peace. But we are not strong enough to fight the HFY Empire. Every year they take more worlds and enslave more species. We need help. Jinho began to understand. You want humans to help you fight them. Not just fight, Nari said quickly. We want to offer your people something much better. A partnership that would benefit everyone. The star map changed again, showing Earth as a bright green dot. Lines of light connected it to hundreds of other worlds, creating a web of connections across the galaxy. We have watched your people for 18 years, Nari explained. Ever since you saved me, we have been learning about humanity. You are very different from us. Where we are small and gentle, you are strong and brave. Where we think carefully before acting, you can make quick decisions when danger comes. Where we build beautiful things, you are excellent at protecting what matters. Jinho felt both proud and worried. What exactly are you asking us to do? Nari waved her hand and the air above the table filled with new images. Jinho saw amazing cities floating among the clouds, vehicles that could travel between stars in days instead of years, and medical devices that could heal almost any injury. First, we offer a technology exchange, Nari said. We will share our knowledge of clean energy, advanced medicine, and space travel. Your people will never again worry about pollution or disease or being trapped on one world. In return, we ask for cultural exchange and protection services. The images changed to show human soldiers working alongside different alien species. They were not conquering or destroying, but helping to rescue slaves and defend peaceful worlds from attack. Second, we propose a military alliance. Your people have something very special that other species lack. You can think quickly in dangerous situations. You are willing to fight to protect others, even strangers, and you do not give up easily when things become difficult. Jinho thought about this carefully. You want humans to become galactic peacekeepers. Yes, but as partners, not servants. Every world you help protect would owe gratitude to Earth. Your people would gain allies, trading partners, and friends across the galaxy. Humanity would become one of the most respected species in the known universe. The final set of images showed something that made Jinho's heart race. Earth itself had changed, with gleaming space stations orbiting the planet and ships traveling regularly to other worlds. Humans and aliens worked together in laboratories, schools, and great construction projects that spanned multiple star systems. Third, Nari said softly, I have a personal request. I want you to become Earth's first human ambassador to the Velti worlds. You would work directly with me to oversee this partnership. Your people would need someone they trust to make sure the agreements are kept fairly. Jinho sat back in his chair, feeling overwhelmed. This is much bigger than I expected. I know it seems frightening, Nari said, but think about what your people could become. Right now, humans are limited to one world. You fight each other over resources and territory. But the galaxy is vast, with infinite room to grow and learn. Your species could explore thousands of worlds, meet countless other civilizations, and build something truly wonderful. What about the dangers? Jinho asked. The HFY Empire sounds very powerful. Nari's expression became serious. They are dangerous, yes, but they have never faced anything like humanity before. They expect other species to surrender quickly or fight in predictable ways. Your people fight differently. You surprise your enemies and protect your friends with a fierceness that even the HFY have never seen. The ship's walls displayed a message in both Korean and English. Incoming transmission from Earth governments. The world leaders want to speak with us, Nari said. Are you ready to help me explain this proposal to your people? Jinho thought about his quiet life as an engineer. He thought about his small apartment and his comfortable routine. Then he thought about the tiny, injured creature he had found 18 years ago, and how that simple act of kindness had led to this moment. "Before I answer," he said, "I need to know something. Why me? You could have chosen any human to be your ambassador. Military leaders, politicians, scientists. Why ask a mechanical engineer?" Nari smiled. "Because 18 years ago, a 12-year-old boy saw a hurt creature and decided to help, even though it was strange and different. He did not ask for rewards or recognition. He simply did what was right because it needed to be done. That boy grew up to be the kind of person we want representing humanity among the stars." She stood up and extended her hand to him. "Will you help us build a better future, Jinho? Will you help your people take their place among the galactic community?" Jinho looked at her outstretched hand, remembering how she had once been small enough to sit in his palm. Now she was offering him the chance to help humanity reach for the stars themselves. He took her hand and shook it firmly. "Yes," he said. "Let's go talk to the world leaders. Let's see if we can convince them that this is the right choice for Earth." As they prepared to leave the ship and face the waiting crowd of diplomats and reporters, Jinho realized that his life was about to change completely. But for the first time in years, he felt truly excited about the future. 6 months had passed since the world leaders agreed to Nari's proposal. The signing ceremony at the United Nations had been watched by billions of people across Earth. Now Jinho stood on the deck of a Velti starship, looking down at a beautiful blue and green world called New Haven. His life had changed completely. The quiet engineer who once designed rocket parts now wore advanced bioarmor that made him stronger and faster than any normal human. The suit was thin as clothing but could stop bullets and help him breathe in any atmosphere. More importantly, it let him communicate instantly with Velti technology and translate any alien language he encountered. "Are you ready for this?" Nari asked, joining him at the observation window. She now wore practical military clothing instead of her elegant ambassador robes. This mission was too dangerous for ceremony. Jinho checked the equipment attached to his belt. Human-designed tactical gear mixed with Velti technology created tools that neither species could have made alone. As ready as anyone can be for their first alien world. New Haven was supposed to be a peaceful colony where humans and Velti could work together to build their first joint settlement. But 3 days ago, all communication with the planet had stopped. Rescue ships found the colony empty except for signs of a terrible struggle. The Kethvar had struck without warning. "The tracking signals lead to the asteroid mining belt," reported Diho, the human military advisor who had volunteered for the mission. He was a former Special Forces soldier who had adapted quickly to fighting in space. 3 separate locations. They're using the prisoners as slave labor. Jinho studied the tactical display showing the asteroid field. The Kethvar had built hidden bases inside the largest rocks, using stolen Velti technology to mask their presence. Hundreds of colonists were trapped in those dark, airless mines. The traditional approach would be careful reconnaissance followed by a coordinated rescue operation, explained Taewan, the Velti military commander. His people were excellent at planning and strategy, but they always took a long time to make decisions. "We would need at least 2 weeks to map all their defenses and find the safest approach." "We don't have 2 weeks, Jinho said, thinking about the innocent people suffering in those mines. "The Kethvar kill prisoners who become too weak to work. Every day we wait, more people die." This was exactly the kind of situation where human thinking proved different from other species. The Velti wanted to minimize risk through careful planning. The Kethvar expected their enemies to either retreat or attack in predictable patterns, but humans specialized in controlled chaos. Jinho had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. "What if we don't try to sneak in?" he suggested. "What if we do something so unexpected that we confuse their entire defense system?" He outlined his plan to the mixed human-Velti rescue team. Instead of attacking one base at a time, they would hit all 3 simultaneously, but not with overwhelming force that the Kethvar could defend against. Instead, they would use small, fast-moving teams that created maximum confusion. "You want to deliberately split our forces?" Taewan asked, looking worried. "That violates every principle of sound military tactics." "Exactly," Jinho grinned. "The Kethvar will expect us to concentrate our attack on their strongest position. They'll move their defenses to counter a single large assault. But if we attack everywhere at once with smaller groups, they won't know where to focus their response." Daeho nodded approvingly. "Controlled chaos. Make them react to us instead of executing their own plan. I like it. The plan required perfect timing and communication. Jinho would lead the team attacking the largest mining base where most of the prisoners were being held. Diho and a mixed human-Velti squad would hit the supply depot that kept all three bases operational. A third team of Velti specialists would disable the communication hub that coordinated Kethvar defenses. As they approached the asteroid field in small, stealthy ships, Jinho felt his heart beating fast. This was his first real test as Earth's ambassador. If the mission failed, it would prove that humans were too reckless to be trusted with galactic responsibilities. The attack began at exactly the planned moment. Jinho's team burst through the hidden entrance of the main mining base, just as explosions erupted at the supply depot 5 kilometers away. Emergency alarms blared throughout the asteroid field as confused Kethvar soldiers tried to respond to multiple crises at once. Inside the mining base, Jinho saw the true cruelty of the Kethvar Empire. Humans and Velti prisoners worked in terrible conditions, digging valuable crystals from the asteroid's core, while wearing the same kind of electronic shackles that had once bound Nari. Many looked sick and weak from months of forced labor. Stay calm, Jinho called out to the prisoners in both Korean and Velti. We're here to rescue you. Follow my team to the evacuation ships. But the Kethvar weren't giving up easily. Their soldiers were tall, heavily armored creatures with 4 arms and weapons that fired energy blasts. They moved to block the escape routes, forcing Jinho's team into a desperate fight through the narrow mining tunnels. This was where human adaptability made the crucial difference. While Velti tactics relied on technology and careful positioning, humans could improvise solutions using whatever was available. Jinho used mining equipment as weapons, turned off the asteroid's artificial gravity to confuse the enemy, and even caused a controlled cave-in that blocked Kethvar reinforcements. The freed prisoners helped however they could. Some were too weak to fight, but others grabbed tools and joined the battle with fierce determination. Seeing former slaves turn against their captors sent shockwaves through the Kethvar ranks. Their morale is breaking, reported Nari over the communication system. Kethvar soldiers are trained to fight disciplined armies, not angry victims fighting for their freedom. The breakthrough came when Deho's team successfully destroyed the supply depot. Without fresh ammunition and equipment, the scattered Kethvar forces couldn't maintain their defense. One by one, the 3 mining bases fell to the rescue teams. As the last evacuation ship lifted off from the asteroid field, Jinho counted the rescued prisoners. Over 400 humans and Velti had been saved from slavery. More importantly, word of the successful rescue spread quickly through both species. You did something remarkable today, Nari told him as they watched the former prisoners receiving medical care aboard the rescue ships. You proved that human tactics can work in galactic warfare. But more than that, you showed other species that humanity fights to protect the innocent. Jinho looked at the rescued colonists, many of whom were crying with relief and gratitude. Among them, he saw children who reminded him of himself at 12 years old, when he had found a tiny alien girl who needed help. This is just the beginning, he realized. Other species will hear about this rescue. They'll know that Earth and the Velti work together to fight slavery and oppression. Over the following weeks, exactly that happened. Representatives from 6 different alien species contacted Earth, asking for protection from Kethvar raids. Each new alliance made humanity stronger and gave them access to new technologies and trade opportunities. But Jinho also knew that their success had made them a target. Somewhere in the dark reaches of space, the Kethvar Empire was planning their response to this new human threat. The real test was still coming. 1 year after the New Haven rescue, Jinho stood in the command center of Earth's first space defense station. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from 7 different alien species floating in formation around Earth. What had started as a simple alliance between humans and the Velti had grown into something much larger. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures, announced Mina, his childhood friend who had become Earth's lead xenobiologist. She now served as the chief science officer for the defense station. Whatever's coming, it's big. Jinho studied the display screen showing the outer edge of the solar system. Red dots appeared one by one as enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The Kethvar Empire had sent their entire invasion fleet to crush humanity, before they could become a true galactic power. "They're not taking any chances this time," observed Hyeri, Jinho's sister who had joined the human space defense force. She commanded a squadron of Earth's newest fighters, built with a combination of human engineering and Velti technology. "This is everything they have." Nari appeared on the main communication screen from her flagship at the edge of the formation. Behind her, Jinho could see Velti officers working frantically at their control stations. "Jinho, we're analyzing their fleet composition. This is not just a raid or punishment expedition. They mean to destroy Earth completely." The Kethvar strategy became clear as their massive fleet moved deeper into the solar system. They had learned from their defeats at the mining bases. Instead of spreading their forces, they were concentrating everything into one overwhelming assault. Their plan was simple: destroy Earth's defenses so quickly that the Alliance would collapse before it could respond. "All Allied ships, this is Ambassador Jinho," he broadcast to the fleet. "Remember what we're fighting for. The Kethvar want to turn every free species in the galaxy into slaves. Today we prove that some things are worth defending, no matter the cost." The first phase of the battle took place near Jupiter. Long-range weapons lit up space with deadly energy beams as the two fleets engaged at maximum distance. The Kethvar had superior numbers, but the Allied fleet had something unexpected: complete cooperation between different species. Human tactical thinking coordinated with Velti technology and precision. The crystal-based Lithani provided incredible defensive shields, while the tentacled Morphex specialized in electronic warfare that confused enemy targeting systems. Each species contributed their greatest strengths to create a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But even working together, the Allied fleet was badly outnumbered. For every Kethvar ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. Slowly but steadily, the enemy pushed toward Earth. "We can't win a straight fight," Diho reported from his command ship. "They have too many vessels. We need a different approach." Jinho stared at the tactical display, watching the red enemy markers advance relentlessly through the solar system. The Kethvar were fighting exactly as expected: disciplined formations, coordinated attacks, overwhelming firepower. They were powerful, but they were also predictable. That was when Jinho realized their weakness. "Nari, can you patch me through to all Allied ship commanders?" he asked urgently. "Of course, but what are you planning?" "Something crazy," Jinho admitted. "The Kethvar expect us to fight them the way they fight each other. Organized battle lines, logical tactics, predictable responses. But humans don't always fight logically." He opened a channel to every ship in the Allied fleet. "All commanders, listen carefully. We're going to do something that will look like chaos, but trust me. In 30 seconds, I want every ship to break formation and attack independently. Don't coordinate with anyone else. Pick your own targets and fight your own battles. That's suicide," protested one of the Velti captains. "Without coordination, they'll defeat us in detail." "No," Jinho said firmly. "They'll be too confused to respond effectively. The Kethvar have spent centuries fighting species that organize themselves like they do. They've never faced an enemy that deliberately creates controlled chaos." The transformation was immediate and startling. Instead of neat battle lines, the Allied fleet suddenly scattered in all directions. Human ships dove toward enemy formations at impossible angles. Velti vessels used their superior technology to appear and disappear like ghosts. The Lithani created moving walls of crystal that protected other ships while blocking enemy fire. To outside observers, it looked like the Allied fleet had lost all discipline and was falling apart. But Jinho could see the method in the madness. Every ship captain was making independent decisions based on their species' greatest strengths. While the enemy struggled to respond to hundreds of different threats at once, the Kethvar command structure began to break down. Their rigid hierarchy couldn't adapt quickly enough to coordinate responses against so many unpredictable attacks. Ship commanders waited for orders that never came, while their admirals tried desperately to make sense of the chaotic battle. "It's working," Hyeri reported excitedly. "Their formations are falling apart. They don't know which threat to respond to first." The breakthrough came when a group of human fighters, led by Deho himself, managed to penetrate the Kethvar fleet center and attack their command ships. Without central coordination, the massive enemy fleet became a collection of individual vessels fighting separate battles. But the final victory required one more desperate gamble. The largest Kethvar battleship, a massive vessel that could destroy Earth by itself, was still advancing toward the planet. Its armor was too strong for normal weapons, and its shields deflected everything the Allied fleet could throw at it. "I'm going after it," Jinho announced, climbing into his personal fighter craft. "That's insane," Nari protested. "Your ship can't even damage something that large." "I don't need to damage it," Jinho replied. "I just need to confuse it." Flying directly at the enormous battleship, Jinho used every trick he had learned about fighting in space. He flew in erratic patterns that made him impossible to target, used the battleship's own weapon fire to mask his approach, and finally managed to land his small fighter on the enemy vessel's hull. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. Using portable charges designed for mining operations, Jinho created a series of small explosions on the battleship's surface. The explosions didn't damage the massive ship, but they convinced its automated defense systems that the vessel was under attack from multiple directions. The confused battleship began firing at phantom enemies, including other Kethvar vessels nearby. As friendly fire spread through their ranks, the remaining enemy fleet finally broke and retreated toward the outer system. The Battle of Earth was over. Humanity and its allies had achieved the impossible. They had defeated the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. 5 years later, Jinho stood in the same place where he had once found a tiny alien girl in a crashed pod. Now the area was part of Earth's first interspecies school, where human children learned alongside young aliens from dozens of different worlds. He watched as a human boy helped a small Velti girl reach a book on a high shelf and smiled. The simple act of helping someone in need had grown into something that changed the entire galaxy. Nari joined him, carrying official documents that established the new Galactic Council with Earth as a founding member. "Ready for the next adventure, Ambassador?" Jinho looked up at the sky, where ships from hundreds of worlds now traveled freely between the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders still to discover. "Always," he said. "Let's see what's out there."